Hey, hello everyone. My name is Eunhee, and I graduated in 2019 in Korea University, and my background is psychology. But thanks to my great, amazing colleagues, I had many chances to work with computer scientists or engineers, and I had chance to merge VR or AR with a few psychological problems such as memory test or forensic psychology, and also the cybersecurity. So for today, I'm going to talk about my long journey for understanding this phenomenon as a psychologist, and it will be mostly three parts. One is which factors make people sick, and second is how to measure this phenomenon. And especially, I will focus on using EEG to quantify this symptom. And lastly, my few approaches to reduce this symptom regarding some brain perspective. So first, the causes of cybersickness. So Mark already told on his Monday's lecture that there's a sensory conflict when we watch those really dynamically moving VR scenes. So as you can see here, man is sitting on his chair, and the visual information through HMD is moving around, but he's basically sit on the chair. So those mismatched sensory information between the visual and vestibulars can cause cybersickness. But if we more step into this phenomenon, we will get this action perception. So action perception means people can feel illusionary psychomotion, which means even though they don't move at all, but due to some visual stimuli, we feel like we are moving a certain direction. So, for example, it can be induced using those simple monitors, or if you are surrounded by this large screen, that you feel more strong action, that you feel like moving certain direction. So if you're wearing EHMD, your whole visual field is surrounded by the virtual environment, and if the virtual environment slightly moves, then you feel like you're actually moving that direction. And also in our inner ear system, there's a three semicircular canal, and these canals are detecting your balance. So if you rotate your head in a certain direction, then this canal also moves that direction to understand what's going on in your body and help you to maintain your secure position. So in the cybersickness situation, so this is the story. So your visual system keep obtaining some visual input that you're moving certain direction, but actually your vestibular system does not move that much. So those kind of asynchrony between vision and vestibular system will cause those negatives. So based on this theoretical background, what I did first is to figure out which factors are related to this. So I surveyed thoroughly about the previous articles, and found that there's many suggestions that some factors are related to the cybersickness, but if we want to clarify that, we need to separately into three. So one is hardware-related factor, second is content-related factor, and third one is human-related factor. So I don't try to go really deep into these factors, but for the hardware point of view, the earlier studies mainly studied what is the difference between the display type. So like only 2010 or somewhere at that point, the Oculus came out, and it was a huge sensation that which display type, for example, like monitor or screen, or it can be which type of the display devices can induce more sickness was the key topic. And the other one is also mentioned below view. So if we can provide the users a wider field of view, then it could induce more immersive experience, but somehow it also induces more sickness. So actually this result linked to the vaccine problem. So if the viewer can view in the wider field of view, then there's a more chances the person can feel the illusory motion perception. So that's why wider field of view sometimes induce the harder, severe sickness. And also, one of the most widely recognized causes is the time delay between the CD and the human perception. So when a human turn their head for example, left side, then the virtual image through the HMD also should follow that expected image accordingly, but somehow there's a lag between their motion and the virtual scene, and those kind of discrepancy can also induce cybersickness. And regarding the content of that, so many studies are focused on which factors causes more action, and this kind of action perception also can cause cybersickness with the key factors of content-related cybersickness. And also, I want to mention that if the person losing control within the VR experience, which means they cannot voluntarily move their head or body, then it shows that they can feel more sickness than whether compared to if they can move freely in the virtual environment. And also regarding the human factors, it is known that women tend to experience severe cybersickness than to men. And also, if you feel motion sickness in real life, then it is higher chance to feel cybersickness as well. And also, there's some. We might expect some age-related differences between cybersickness, but actually, most studies are usually performed to the young generation, like 20 or 30. So actually, we need to do more research in age differences. And after all those surveys, what I found interesting is not all approaches, not all approaches to make virtual environment improve is not necessarily cause lower cybersickness. So I want to explain this graph. So each line means one single study. So every single study in this graph try to compare the low-level technology and high-level technology to users, and what they expect is if they provide the higher level of technology virtual reality, then participants feel less sick because it is improved virtual environment. But actually, it turns out that even though they provide high fidelity virtual reality, but it increase the sickness level. So what is totally opposite result what they expect. But so and I get into this phenomenon that what makes but in some cases, if they show the high fidelity virtual reality, then their sickness level goes down. So what makes this two opposite results? So my hypothesis is that if the virtual environment only gives the unimodal system, which means if they just show the visual information, there's no vestibular or no audio, no tactile, only single visual information was there, then even though the environment is high fidelity, it causes better screens, but the virtual environment is a multimodal system, then the high fidelity virtual scene can reduce cybersecurity. So actually this my hypothesis actually confirmed by the also statistical approach. So I performed the meta-analysis, which means I can gather the previous studies into some categories and compare between them and whether there is a statistically significant difference between them or not. And it turns out that if the system is multimodal system, then participants show high fidelity virtual reality because it does not make them more sick. However, even though they are if they are in the visual only virtual environment, then they rather prefer the low fidelity VR scene. So like high fidelity virtual scene is kind of like higher resolution, like bigger, wider FOV or like lower time lag environment. But low fidelity VR scene is like the resolution is not good and there's the FOV is narrow. Then so next page, the measurement of cybersickness. So as we already heard many times before, the cybersickness also can be quantified using multiple types of subjective measures. So this pie graph shows that we usually use this simulators, this questionnaires, and also we can use some nausea scale and or fast motion sequence. Or recently we are more trying to adopt this kind of UI. So while you experiencing the VR, some pop-up UI will show up and ask you how severe you feel at that moment. So if you look into this simulator sickness questionnaires, there are 16 symptoms are here, and participants are asked to check how much they feel about each symptom. So it can be categorized the total cybersickness score, but also it can be classified as a sickness level related to the nausea, also some eye-related symptoms, and also disorientation. But as you can see here, there's a lot of questions are here. So it somehow takes time to do this whole stuff. So recently we are more using this kind of controller-based response. So for example, we just ask them 0 means no sickness, but 10 means the maximum level of sickness. So ask them to using controller to report their symptoms. So for example, here, this kind of UI is pop up, and you can select the level of your sickness at that. And also, people usually, if I explain this kind of concept, and they think they understand what it means, but actually it is hard to tell how difference between number 3 and number 7, or like number 1 level of sickness and number 5 level of sickness. So to understand them more intuitively, we added some colors of its numbers, and also we add some text on its UI so that they can intuitively and quickly understand what these numbers stand. And also, what we also applied in here is, so the first report is usually obviously start from 0, but the person ended up their sickness level at 1.7. Then the second report will start from the previous number they responded. So what they need to do is just figure out if their sickness level is same as the previous one, or worse or better than the previous one. So this is aimed to help the participants quickly and intuitively figure out their body state. And yeah, and according to my survey, among the 67 entire my listed papers, 42 papers adopted the objective measures as well. And here you can see posture sway is the most widely used objective measure in cybersickness. So this is partly related to the Bayesian research. So most of Bayesian research usually measures the participant's body sway, because it is the kind of index that if the person really experience the Bayesian perception, then it tends to they tends to move their body. So that's why in the early stage of the cyberspace research, posture sway is the highest most. And also you can see here GCG and EPA, some autonomic nervous system indexes, and also here EEG research, but not as many as the posture sway approach. But recently, I had another project to do some review the more recent research about cyberspace, adopting some objective measures, and the volume of listed articles are 120, and as you can see here, the number of articles who study cyberspace using objective measures are increasing, and compared to the previous one, it seems that there's more interest in brain-related measures of the brain activity of cybersickness, and also there's more portion is for the multiple approaches, which means like the researchers adopted brain and like ECG, or brain and eye movement, something like that. So they try to adopt more than 2 signals at the same time to understand what is part of the cyberspace. So regarding this autonomic genomic signals. There's a few signals that researchers usually use. One is ECG and also GSR-PTG, and these three imaging devices are meant to measure some acute stressful moments. So we can regard the cybersickness as a very unexpected acute stressful event that this three devices is supposed to go up. And also the respiration also getting more fast. And here ECG stands for the electrogastrogram, and it detects the movement of our stomach. So as you can imagine, if we feel motion sickness, cybersickness, our stomach seems really weird. And in normal state, it usually moves like 3 or 5 times in 1 minute. But if we get really in a bad situation, it will get faster. So ECG is one of the direct measurements for the cybersickness. But somehow it's really challenging to assess because it needs to put some exact location of your belly on your skin. So it is a bit awkward to ask participants to put those things on their body. But anyway, yeah, it's quite promising index. And also, what I found was more than half of these studies are usually in a passive environment, which means they ask the participants stay in fixed position. So I definitely understand why they use this kind of settings, because as you know, most of physiological signals is really weak to the movement artifact. So they ask to just adopt this kind of passive environment. So I also have some experience to have to adopt this passive environment. So what I did was to use this walk assistive tools for seniors. So I put some wood plate on that senior worker, and also I put those chin rests. It is usually used for your eyesight test. The kind of tests on top of that, and make sure the participant cannot move their body, especially their head. So to correctly and reliably measure EEG signals. So yeah, and also regarding the display devices, mostly now we are using HMD, but also when you are trying to measure EEG with HMD, as you can see, we cannot avoid this kind of situation. So the strap sometimes, most times, attached is cover this part of parietal or the central part of the brain. So depending on the participant's head size and many other issues, we sometimes might lose some of our electrode in this situation. And also, I found an article that each HMD has its own electromagnetic footprint. So it means like the device has its own electric noises. So if we put those devices on top of our EEG system, so that noises can also affect the raw data signal of our EEG. So based on this article, it seems that IVE is a bit better than offers, but yeah. So if we compare this here, C and E, then you can see the Oculus has a more noise at the higher frequency. And yeah, so based on this research, they recommended that if you try to use HMD with EEG, then the frequency window for reliable analysis is below 50 Hertz. Yeah, so after all those survey, I wanted to run my own experiment using EEG, but what I wanted to know was how many electrodes are enough for my experiment, which real content would usually use, and how many participants, what kind of EEG analysis I should take, this kind of really practical issues. So to answer these questions, I again did some review research to figure out how the previous approach was made. So this survey also published last year, 2 years ago. Yeah, and I found 33 meaningful articles which investigated cybersickness using the brain activity. So, there's a lot of information here, but the main point is we still need more studies, which means they somehow did not explicitly wrote about how they run their experiment in a specific setting. So I think we need more research on cybersickness in EEG for better understanding. But and also, what I mostly want to mention is here. So among the 33 studies, most studies usually adopted the frequency or time frequency analysis. This means I will a bit more explain later, but it means the most studies usually give up the temporal dynamic of brain, but they just took the frequency aspect of the EEG signal. So look at here, the ERP approach is the most widely and also it has a profound academical scientific background in EEG analysis, but somehow in terms of cybersickness research, there are a few studies with this ERP approaches. So I will explain why it happened. So as I mentioned, so let's assume that this is the EEG signal. Then there's a two-way we can analyze this EEG signal. So one is time domain measures, so which means it's a continuous signal, but we just cut these signals and then average it to figure out which temporal aspect is related to that brain signals. Or we can just ignore the time-related factors, but we can just focus on the frequency domain. So in this case, all these signals are converted to the level of power of each frequency bands, such as like ARPA or beta, something like that. So most previous research in cybersickness used frequency domain, so which means, for example, here is a timeline in the setup. So we had a baseline section and showed 14 minutes of virtual scene. Then and the can show the low level cybersickness at the first part of the VR, but their level is getting higher like this. Then what we usually did was visualize the part of this brain signals, like we set some windows. For example, I set a 1 minute of time window. Then I just did some Fourier transform or some frequency analysis. Then I just translated these all temporal signals into some frequency signals. It means I can tell that here time compared to time 2, that here time 3 shows a higher power at the frontal area, but it did not tell you how what happened in those 1 minute of brain activity. So you see, like first 30 seconds, there's a higher frequency, but it could be decreased. Or so there's many stories in here, 1 minute of time window, but we cannot tell if we use just frequency domain method. But the reason why we cannot use kind of traditional time domain analysis in cybersickness is because we usually use very short time visual stimuli or do the ERP analysis. So typically, like we show the 1 second of yellow ball and 1 second of purple ball, and then we just cut the short time period of each epoch and then average EEG signal like this. But if we apply this setup to the cybersickness research, it means like we only showed like 1 or 3 seconds of roller coaster to participants for like 100 times. So how many times I should like show them? And even though I can show them, it won't induce cybersickness. So that is the core problem. So that's why it's not applicable to use the traditional ERP research. So that's why a few studies try to adopt the conventional ERP analysis, but I thought it was not enough. So for example, here they showed the some cybersickness inducing virtual space station here, but what they compared was before this VR thing, they did two-choice multiple test. It's something like measuring your cognitive ability. And after this VR experience, they also show more the two-choice outward test. So the rationale behind this setup is due to this VR experience, they have some severe sickness, so their cognitive function is somehow affected due to this VR thing. So they assume that there will be difference between here, the first task, and this outward task. But in my opinion, yeah, it could be indirect way to understand the effect of cybersickness on the cognitive function. But what I wanted to know is during this VR experience, what happened in our brain, and what happened in our brain can be related to our subjective level of sickness. So that is what I wanted to understand. And so I'm trying to blame all like disrespect this research, but I just want to tell some indications. So in this study as well. So in this case, they did show some VR scene, but it only lasts for 6 seconds. So still, I think it is not enough to make people sick. Yeah. So meanwhile, I found this approach perfect for potential, and this analysis is about that. Not only our brain keep getting information from our 5 organs: vision, ear, mouth, taste, scent, and vestibular, but also our brain keep monitoring our inner organs, such as like heart or like our intestine or like our respiration, because this inner organ is super important for our life. So the brain keep monitoring whether our heart is successfully and continuously beat, and our respiration is okay. Something is more about our interoception. So the baroreceptor of our heart detects the blood pressure changes, and those information is goes to our brain, and our brain keeps monitoring our heartbeat information. So what I try to adopt in my experience is, while we watching the virtual roller coaster, for example, then our EEG is also recording simultaneously. And at the same time, we also use measure with ECG signal as well. Then we can use this ECG signal as an event. So in that case, we don't need like 1 or 2 seconds of short roller coaster video, but what we do is just run the traditional cybersickness experiment, but the difference is we call this 2 signals at the same time, and pick the peak point of this ECG signal can be our new event. So typically, we usually beat our heart like 60 to 80 times in 1 minute. So at least if I show a 3-minute video, then I will probably get a 180 or like 240 event I can have. So yeah, so that's the setup of my experiment. So what I showed is roller coaster, 2 types of roller coaster, and one the reason I use this kind of thing is I want to make sure that the visual information on their retina, on their visual system is fully same, but only the difference is the level of cybersickness. So this upright condition is supposed to make people more sick, and this inverted PRCN make people less sick. So the amount of visual information of the roller coaster is fully same, but somehow due to their merging, it induces a different level of sickness, and it affects our heart, and those transient change in our heartbeat affect our brain. That is the my rationale, and so there's a lot of stuff here, but the important point is, here. So I accept my reason of interest in here. So 300 or 400 milliseconds after the heartbeat. and it shows a significant difference between two conditions: the high level of cybersickness and low level of cybersickness. And in terms of the if the person feel more sickness, then their amplitude of this EEG signal is getting lower. So yeah, so this is the approach I selected for to find out the temporal dynamic of cybersickness. And so at that time, there was no this kind of toolbox I can use. So I just manually pick all peak of the ECG signals and adapted to my EEG. But here, the Kai yesterday mentioned the EEG lab, and there's a plug-in you can use to apply those HCP analysis more easier. So if you're interested in, then you can try this brain digits plugin as well. And recently, I also find that there's some emerging trying that combine EEG with the other type of signals as well. So for example, here we try to combine EEG and eye tracking. So they let the participants really navigate in this kind of virtual world, and they try to classify the participant's eye gaze movement into the fixation and the saccade. So fixation means you just stare at some point. Saccade means your eyes really rapidly move around. But they only focus on the fixation point that a participant make, which means it is meaningful for their eye navigation, and using just collecting all those fixation moments at the entire eye gaze pattern, and make this kind of ERP graph for how their brain activity changes when they do some fixation eye movement. Yeah, and last part, reducing cybersickness. So I have tried a few approaches how to reduce the negative symptoms. So the previous most of approaches are add something to the virtual environment or to the participant. So here you can see some grid here. So action is really important illusory perception to make users feel more immersive to the environment, but it somehow causes sickness, right? So we added this kind of grid to help them. Hey, you are in stationary situation where you're not moving. So this kind of additional visual information can help to reduce some level of cybersickness. And the other point is, as Mark mentioned, we put some metal plate on the back part of our ear, and we added some electricity to feel that they're not moving their head, but they feel like they are moving around. But actually, this is really tricky approach, in my opinion, because it is. For us, for our team, it is really challenging to accurately manipulating those electricity to induce those fake balance. So what did change my mind is just make the brain feel differently, which means due to this kind of sensory mismatch with the cybersickness. So what we try to do is stimulate the brain. Stimulate a part of the brain to make them to improve their sensory merging, or like deceive brain. Even though there's a sensory conflict, they can just ignore those kind of sensory mismatch. Yeah, so at that time, 2015, I found an article that using brain stimulation for reducing cybersickness. So it turns out that if we stimulate our left parietal side of our brain, then they found that people should spend more time in virtual reality because they feel less sickness, and also time to recover getting faster. Like the left side was stimulated. And what I did was to replicate those results, and I also want to do some PES research. So what I need to decide was which kind of electricity I should use. So I can use the direct stimulation, or I can add some random noises on my electricity, and also I can use some alternative current stimulation. So I need to decide type of the TS and location of the patch, and also intensity and how long I will stimulate. So in my case, the location is, I just follow the previous work. So I choose the left parietal side, and this location is known to do some multi-sensory integration. So that's why we choose this area. And I also, and we selected 2 milliampere for 10-minute stimulation. And here sham is we'd like to remove the placebo effect. So if people feels like they're treated something, then they feel like, even though it is a fake one, they feel like, oh, I'm getting better kind of thing. So to reduce those kind of placebo effect, we added sham condition as well. And so the procedure was simple. After the brain stimulation, and we did the roller coaster and asked them whether they have some differences in cybersickness. The results show that so we could stimulate those brain area with anodal stimulation and cathodal stimulation, but only with the anodal stimulation, the results show that compared to the sham group, the person who treated the TDS stimulation showed the lower level of cybersickness, and also the amount of the reduced effect was huge in the disorientation perspective. So if they get brain stimulated, then their disorientation symptoms are less than non-stimulated people. So, but I didn't continue this research because at that time I was thought that who will get brain stimulated not to feel cybersickness. So I think it was a bit too much. So I didn't continue this research. But recently I found that it became more accessible and more kind of doable approach. And also it seems like there's an increasing number of people who use wearable TDCS or electricity stimulation to improve their performance or to cure their some mental issues. So yeah, so for summary, so if you are trying to make a less cybersecurity inducing environment, then you should please consider hardware content and also user factors in a whole to provide the better user experience. And you can use both subjective and objective measures to quantify the level of cybersecurity. And also lastly, if you're using EEG and ECG as well, then you can consider heartbeat as an event for the time domain. Okay, so thank you for listening and there's any
You mentioned in one of your slides that you use the skin temperature.
yeah.
Could you please elaborate more on what device did you use and was it helpful with understanding if they are about to get sick?
Yeah, actually,
Yeah.
I don't have specific experience using skin temperature, yeah, but I found a few articles that using skin temperature for monitoring the resistance level, and it seems like, well, I think I don't find significant results, so it's hard to say whether people temperature getting lower or higher, but definitely there's a few studies using.
Hi. Thanks for the talk. Have you found, several people have used optical flow as kind of an indicator of possible motion sickness in VR games. Have you tried to find any correlation between any of those biosignals and optical flow?
Oh, yeah, I haven't found, but I found a lot of research that they try to find out some correlation between optical flow and the level of cybersecurity, and it definitely there's a clear positive correlation, which means if there's a higher optical flow, then it has more chances to participants feel positive correlation.
So going backwards, the idea was to say, would there be any patterns in, say, EGG or that would be correlating with optical flow and self-reported motion sickness? Because then you could look at those biological indicators.
True, yeah. So actually, that will be my my planning research for now. So
okay.
Yeah. What's optical flow? Optical flow is when the scene is moving, then
so you can measure the displacement of you match pixels within adjacent frames, and then you compute the displacement between matching pixels, and that gives you a measure of how much movement there is from one frame to the other. And then, so when you're going down a ramp or something where you have lots of movement in the images, optical flow is an indication of how much the images are moving.
I think Elliot has a question online as well. Do you want to unmute yourself, Elliot?
oh, okay.
Hi. Hi, Eunhee. Really appreciate your impressive presentation. And I do have one question. In one of your research, I think you asked the participant to conduct 4 roller coaster sections. And how much rest time did you provide them between each section? The reason I'm asking is that there might be some carryover effects from one session to the next, right?
Oh, yeah. Thank you for the question. So I usually take a 10-minute break between the during these sessions, and definitely there's a carryover effect even though I give the 10-minute breaks. So yeah, actually it will be better if I can give a longer break, but depending on participants' characteristic as states, sometimes they don't want to take a 10-minute break is longer for them, and or sometimes 10 minutes is shorter for them. Yeah, it's actually
Okay.
person.
Thanks so much. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, so,
Oh, okay.
thank you for your talk. So I was wondering, if there is a difference between, like, when a user has the control to move, right? I would assume that, like in a VR locomotion, we have their freedom to move themselves. I would assume there would be like, less cyber sickness in that when a user is in a roller coaster fixated and then they have like no freedom to move. So is there like some evidence that has been like found between these two type of with like moving with the will and being forced to move?
True. There's quite a lot of evidence that if we can really move, then it really help to reduce the sickness, because behind that phenomenon is our brain is keep trying to understand those mismatches, and if we can have move and we can predict something, then it really help to reduce those amount of sensory mismatch. So if we can move, it is more easier to our brain update the our input information. But if we can't, hard to accommodate those.
So for when you say if we add more sensory kind of things to let the body know that they like that is not moving, but if is moving, it will help, or will it like become worse in terms of cyber sickness?
So you mean if a participant can know what they are doing, then it will reduce cybersecurity?
It will reduce, or
Yeah, I think it will reduce. So for example, do you know that drivers never get motion sickness because driver, they know when they put the acceleration or like brake, they can control the entire movement of the car. In that case, they don't get really sick, but the passengers always sick because they do not predict when there will be stop, when there will be acceleration. So,
in that case, if you were to provide, for example, for a roller coaster experience, if you were to provide haptic feedback to let them feel that they are on, like holding on the ground, and it's like vibrating, things like that. So, like, that would make it worse or better?
well, my opinion, I think it will good for participants, so it somehow can distribute their attention, and also it could provide more multiple information, multiple sensory information, so it might help to reduce those discrepancy between. Okay, Dominic, sorry, Dominic, you may.
Yeah, I have a question. It's maybe a little more critical. Should not criticize the research, but I was just wondering. Driving a roller coaster is something very extreme. Even in real life, people get sick driving a roller coaster. But people also get trained driving a roller coaster. For example, if I drive a roller coaster once, I might get sick. If I drive it the 50th time, I won't get sick anymore because my body gets used to it and can kind of work with what it is given. How likely it is in the future that we still have that problem of cyber sickness when people are more used to those experiences in VR?
That's really a good question. So, yes, people really get easily get used to the same environment, and actually, I'm the evidence that I watched the really extreme roller coaster that Jonathan made like 100 times, and in my case, I don't feel any sickness at all now. So definitely, there's some adaptation and kind of learning from those virtual environments. But what I'm trying to do is, but I need to use those extreme cases to collect data from those extreme cases and then use some kind of like making some model for detecting using those based on those physiological signals. We try to figure out which physiological changes is correlated with the subjective level of sickness, and then based on that data, we will apply like a normal and some multiple type of VRCs, and then try to mitigate those symptoms. That is
Also then in terms of training the people to get more used to it.
true. Yeah. Also, trying to validate whether those model is.
Questions in a similar way. Train sickness.
Oh yeah.
It used to be like a big problem in the 1870s, but it's just not a problem anymore. Like just within 2 generations, people got so accustomed to it, become like out of the cultural repertoire to deal with fast-moving landscapes. Do you think there's a chance that the cyber sickness also goes away, except when it's intentionally facilitated, like in a roller coaster? Do you think there's a chance that we will get rid as humanity of cyber sickness as a problem?
Well, hard to answer, but so you mean I think cybersecurity will go away when more people will have chance to experience this virtual reality?
I think it's what we are getting used to as kids. Do kids get cyber sick a lot?
Actually, that is a really good point. So we don't have many evidence that whether like kids are feeling much sickness or like others are feeling more sickness. We have very limited age area. So for now, it's not easy for me to say kids don't feel sickness enough. So,
Do you have plans to add more age range to your study in the future?
I hope so, but actually it's quite challenging.
Okay.
For proteins and
Because it would be interesting to see older generation or kids, how they react.
Or person who were familiar with VR and for now has difference or something kind of.
Yeah, and those who have glasses
Glasses
and those
or-
who don't have. Because I do get cyber sickness.
Oh.
I fell sick during one of the studies I did.
Oh.
Did you try and studies where you compare VR simulation for a prisoner compared to actually like a 360 recording? Is there difference in people's experience?
Oh, I haven't tried by myself, but I saw some papers that 360 videos sometimes make people more sick because it is kind of like fixed version of video, so it do not reflect the head movement of a person's view. So it's but if you make the roller coaster, the whole virtual roller coaster, then it can reflect your head movement. So if you move your head, then scene also follow up your head movement, but 360 video usually it doesn't. So yeah, I remember that the 360 induces the higher.
I might have missed it or misunderstood, but one of the studies you mentioned had conditions of upside down.
Oh yeah.
And am I correct that you said upside down was lesser?
Yeah,
Because
actually.
there was a conflict.
Yeah. Yeah, so. Yeah, this one, right? So, yeah, so inverted conditions showed less sickness. So, the comments from the participants that at the first time they feel really scary and feel a little bit of negative symptoms, but if the roller coaster getting longer, then they feel like they cannot really immerse into that virtual scene, and it seems like they don't feel like ride on the roller coaster. It feels like somehow it was detached from the VR scene and really hard to focus on the VR, so it doesn't induce any action. So yeah, so somehow it turns out that it showed less cybersecurity than.
Could it be interpreted in terms of since they got less presence in that scene?
Oh, yeah, true. Yeah. Also, it could be.
So if they are less present, they'll have less sickness.
Yeah,
Because they are not paying attention because this is.
true. I mean, true. It could be they pay not less attention, and also they feel less action, kind of there in that scene, and feel illusory motion.
So I think a lot of like cybersickness is actually a confound for other experiments. Do you have any suggestions how to control or even recruit specifically to avoid that?
Yeah, actually, that's true. So if you want to make less sickness inducing scene, then I recommend that please slow down your scene, and also if your scene allowed to move freely, then make sure you should provide some higher level of FPS. So if the FPS is low, then it somehow like lagging and zigging, lagging, scene. So yeah, it could make people sick.
For recruiting, for example, would it be beneficial to ask specifically for divers or people who practice gymnastics?
Oh.
Who a lot of weird movements with that type of, or do you think that's
No, I think that'll be fine, but if there's some questionnaire that measuring whether that people is susceptible to motion sickness, so you can do that questionnaire first, and if that person show a higher score, then it will be better, not to create. Yeah. I can share that questionnaire description.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, one more question. In a recent study from our university, we found out that people who get easily sick in the car also get more sick in VR. Did you consider in some way the genetics in your experiments, or like the general tendency of people to get sick in those situations?
I haven't considered genetic part, but definitely there's I think a part of participants feel really more sickness compared to the other group, and based on my experience, the most promising indicator is the motion sickness susceptible score, and also recently I found the visually induced motion sickness score. So it more focused on the how we feel when we using some display devices. So if a person who have experienced those negative feeling using wide monitor or wide screen, then definitely will cause cybersecurity.